Good afternoon. The less serious title for this talk is just linking to anything in particular on the web. But as Jed said, my focus will be specifically probably around text content. Some of this is more applicable to that. You can go into iframes and images and all these other assets as well. But as he said, my focus has been on more the journalism side, from blog posts to long-form articles. And just while I'm here, I've tried adding some element of German to my slides and failed miserably, so you may see some of the workings of Google Translate at work here. I feel gratified that I'm in a country where the population speaks my language so well, and I feel terrible that I do not have a word of German. I had tried to actually brush up on a little bit before getting here, but life, work, anyway, so good to be here. As you said, I've worked at a few journalism companies for probably like almost 12 years in total. I'm currently at The New Yorker. I started there 6 months ago and been working on the redesign. Prior to that, I was part of the team that conceived and built Quartz, which is an American business-focused news startup. And prior to that, The New York Times, where I worked on front-end, CMS, platform. And it was at The New York Times, actually, that I kind of stumbled upon this problem that we were trying to figure out. Typo. That was added today, is about links. Links are like these amazing intangible things for the web. They bind everything together. They are pretty much everything, everything we've built today kind of goes back in some shape or form to being able to move from one document seamlessly to another. But within links, it would be, it's kind of like the DNA. Like if you ever see a good descriptive link, that is a thing of beauty, like something that not only is unique and defines its place on the web, but also has meaning in itself in terms of readability, and not necessarily as an SEO kind of kick, which is a side benefit. It's something that is, definition and context is a big win. And so that was one of the things that I kind of really liked about it, but that would only get you so far. The problem I'm trying to solve, or at least it's a solved problem, I guess, but kind of build upon is actually linking within the document so you get to the page. What next? And there is a question of doing that in a very reliable way. So right now, people are probably saying that we actually have that solution. It's anchor tags or URL fragments or whatever you want to call them. But if you actually take a look at that landscape, you'll probably find that there's not actually many anchor tags out there in terms of being used reliably, being used consistently. Most of the anchor tags that I've seen that are trying to reference in line within the document are usually there because they're actually overloading that with jQuery to do something else, and they just wanted something to fill it. And you're kind of wondering, why is the page jumping back up when I click this? The other problem that we have with adding the URL fragments within URLs is that it's a very manual process. People generally don't want to do manual things. From my position, it's hard enough to get journalists and writers to moderate comments on their own articles and posts, but having them to actually go in and find kind of, even to understand markup, half the time you'll have a CMS or a system that will not expose them to markup, so they actually can't go in here and do it. And ultimately, if it is a manual process and you're actually trying to name things, well, I'd be better off trying to explain cache and validation to a writer than actually dealing with anchor tags. So there is a few things that you can do. Like you can just adopt a sequential numbering pattern. You can, but again, people just won't do it. And you also have to have people are usually abstracted on a CMS level, and if they're already kind of handcrafting their own web pages, then they're not typically the use case that I'm trying to cater to. Within a CMS, though, you do actually have the ability to generate these. And I'm going to get to what you can do once you generate them, by the way, to generate them in a kind of a structured manner. But then the problem that we're trying to solve is that many writers their work will change. If you have a long-form article, even with the New York Times, we didn't actually change the articles very much. It was only if there was a known error or a correction. But every now and again, between the time that it was actually published to 10 minutes, sometimes there was a window where things would change dramatically. Paragraphs would move up, sentences would be flipped, things would be moved around, something would be rephrased. And it didn't happen often. They don't like to do that once things are published, but it did happen from time to time. It was an edge case that we had to cater for. The worst thing you can do is have it a deep link to a paragraph, and when you're linking to that paragraph, let's say, you're doing that with a purpose. You're saying that there's something here that's important, and if you're landing somewhere else, that's a problem. So how do you do that without digging into a CMS where you have to track and manage like all these dynamically generated keys that map up to content which could be in flux, the content that is changing? It's a very hard thing to describe, and it's kind of like leads to a lot of really crazy situations within the CMS where you are syncing keys, you are trying to match them up, you're parsing markup within let's say something like Drupal or WordPress. It's not something actually we would like to do. So you take JavaScript and you reinvent or reimagine what is already technically a solved problem. And what we were doing here is coming up with, there's a few approaches we can take. And the steps to it is you need to be able to generate key off content that can change. You need that key to be unique. You need that key to be tolerant, so that if the context of the paragraph or again, I'm just using paragraph as an example, if that changes and the key changes, do you lose that kind of pairing? And within tolerance, again, a piece can be updated, it can be corrected, sentences are sometimes rearranged, human error, it plays a part. You also don't want a system which is tied to a backend where if you do make changes and things get out of sync and you have to manually go in and kind of like jiggle these things around so that they match up again. And so the other thing you have to accept, being the web, where things are not pixel perfect, you need something that will cover 90% of cases. There is an acceptable margin of error here, and no one expects it to get it right all the time. But when you fail, you need to fail back to the original URL. You still need to be able to deliver the person at the correct destination, even if it's not necessarily within the page. So there's a couple of methods, and actually there's like 5 or 6 different pretty detailed methods. I'm just going to dig into 2 of them, and the first one being the one that I would recommend. We created a system called, well, not called anything, it's just dynamic unique keys, where you take a piece of text, you generate keys from it by the first 3 words of the first sentence and the last sentence. Last sentence and first sentence sometimes are the same sentence if a paragraph is just one. And from that, you use that to uniquely identify and kind of tag the paragraph. And it actually worked remarkably well, so that when you actually use that as an identifier and you actually kind of build in something like you measure the distance between keys, you can actually end up with something that is kind of robust. So, for example, with that URL, you could actually throw in multiple different keys with different variations, and it would still successfully match against the original key. And the way that we did this was actually measuring the difference between the 2 of them. I cannot pronounce this word. I don't know if most people here probably can. Do you ever have it where you read a book where there's some magical character that has a name and you only say it inside your head and then someone else verbalizes it and it doesn't match? I've kind of got that thing going here. Essentially, we use this function in JavaScript to pretty much match keys. So if you generate a key off a paragraph, and if you cut off one of the sentences, or you change how one of them begins. If you change anything in the middle, it's agnostic to that kind of change. It will still pair against the correct key. And you don't have to do anything on the back end. You can do everything on the front end. Essentially, you don't even add overhead to the page, because the page wouldn't even try and generate these keys unless it found something in the URL that it could use. That's just a kind of a recap. So yeah, the flow would be, if you hit the page, you provide a link with this key in it. At that point, then it inspects the page, generates keys, looks for the match by splitting the key and kind of like saying, well, do I match this or this, and what's the level of difference? And typically, we found out we ran this over several hundred articles with about 10 to 20 paragraphs in each. And we only found like 2 cases where technically, there was a false positive where 2 keys were similar enough, but in all those cases, the first key happened to be the correct one. So the tolerance was pretty high. So you could actually even extend this to images, for example, but you probably want to kind of restrict it to something within, the href value or something like that. So this is the fun part. I'm going to attempt a live demo and fall back on some screenshots just to show what we actually did with this now that I've kind of described it in depth. There is a great article here. Oh, something I should say. So the New York Times recently did a wonderful redesign, and as part of that, they cleared away everything and started from scratch, which you should do if you're going to tackle a good redesign. This is actually functionality that did not make it back. I've been told it was an oversight and someone's going to do it, but yeah, until something gets done. But luckily, they've published older pages prior to the redesign statically, so technically it still exists, but it's not just being carried forward. Let's see what happens if I try. Maybe it won't. So this is an old article from 2012, and the idea was that, well, one of the things is like, well, I'll give you a very quick backstory. My first job at the New York Times was, I just got my work visa, and I was working as a temp doing customer service for email. And there was one particular day where we got 200, 300 emails about an article that the Times had run. And on the same article, half the emails were saying, you are so pro-Palestine. Do you know that there are terrorists? And going off on that kind of tangent. The other half were saying, you're so pro-Israel. Do you know what they're doing? And this was about the same article. And the thing I really learned was that context can matter. Like if someone wants to kind of, tweet something saying lies, 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 and provide a URL, you're probably not going to read it. But if that same person could go in and say, well, actually, on this paragraph, this line, and here, like, these are the things I'm disputing. These are the things that are interesting. These are the things that are interesting facts. Whether it's a business-based article where you are highlighting like the core takeaways and you're sharing it, you would typically share the link now, and you wouldn't necessarily have to give this long like copy and paste of the various quotes and figures. You can use a key-like structure not just for deep linking, which is the first part, but the second part in terms of highlighting or sharing or annotation. So we did this at the Times, and it was actually rather successful. It was one of those kind of power user features that not many people knew about, simply because you have to double tap the shift key on these articles in order for those pilcrows to appear at the side. And even then, it was like when it was used, it was actually used to some like really interesting occurrences. We would try and track exactly how these were being shared on Twitter. We couldn't actually see people coming in on these because we didn't set it up to look for what was in the URL hash. But in terms of seeing things on Twitter, people were actually kind of making fun use of it. So it's kind of sorry that it was gone. But anyhow, back to, so that was the Times case. So within that, we built the ability that you could actually link to a specific paragraph, and you could also highlight content as well. So as you can see, like these keys are not necessarily readable. That was one of the downsides. It wasn't very legible. However, depending on the level of granularity that you want, you could probably say, you could change the rules to say, instead of the first character, the first word, the first 3 words of each sentence. And that would take you on to, sorry, that was a screenshot I talked about, doing more readable URLs. So the first option is the one I would recommend if you have like very long articles, if you require kind of more robust measures of tolerance. This one can get fluffy. Like as soon as you start changing the URL or the text and you want that to correspond, you need to include a certain amount of fuzziness when you look it up. But as a straight kind of like, hey, this is my blog, I'm never going to change it, then you can make that call. But for the Times and also at Quartz, we tried to kind of do something a little more specific. And again, the examples I'm using are mostly text-based. There are questions about how you would do this in terms of embeds, if you wanted to link to interactive content, if you wanted to link to anything else that you would want to have in a page. I've avoided that because it kind of gets a lot into the context of what you would be using those for, and I could talk about that for hours. But ultimately, like, readable text, it's a robust solution if you need to just deep link quickly, and you could write that in 5 to 10 minutes, and it would work pretty well. But the key generation, that's really like the little more robust, solid stuff that worked for us at the Times. So we did, to go the other way. So after we did this with the Times, it worked really well. It was pretty solid. The people who used it were happy. We avoided the whole problem of actually integrating it with the CMS. It's entirely a front-end driven process in terms of You interact with it upon, like, basically a double shift tap event. You can change that to be whatever. You can have a button that just said edit. And it didn't add any overhead to the page simply because it was being loaded after the fact. And likewise, there was a simple check to look at the URL just to say, is this person trying to deep link? And if they weren't, no more code got loaded. And if they were, then it would start doing the not very intensive process, though, of generating keys for the entirety of the article and looking for matches. With Quartz, we had a different problem to solve, and in hindsight now, I would have gone more towards the front end, but we had a few different constraints. We wanted to build an annotation system. We wanted to not only allow you to link to paragraphs, to highlight paragraphs, but we wanted you to annotate it. And the original plan was that we were going to kind of leverage social media in terms of using like the larger web as a platform, that by highlighting and annotating and tweeting, that in itself was your annotation, and we could pull it back to a specific paragraph. And the annotation component is actually pretty powerful. If you look at comments, and I started off thinking comments are a great way for readers to interact with the author. And I'm kind of now in the other position of like, comments can be a cesspool. That's a terrible thing to say. But essentially, you look at YouTube. Unless you're going to put in the time and the resources from the editorial side to properly maintain and work with your community, you're going to have problems. Like SB Nation has a great comment system. They have a great community there. But they put in a lot of time and people to do that. And a lot of news orgs can't, simply because they're strapped. They'd rather have more writers than a dedicated person to police the community. So with annotations, the plan was that if you get someone to actually say, instead of saying this article sucks, which is not very helpful, to actually let them go in and say within this paragraph, saying, hey, this paragraph sucks. Because that's actually more, that's just a little step up to give more helpful information. Like, they dispute this paragraph. And maybe while they're there, they'll actually make specific reference because they knew that their comment was just going to get lost in the larger crowd. So of course we wanted to kind of do that. And in turn, people could annotate, and we would tweet the annotations, and it would actually link back to the page to the annotation themselves. Whether it was approved or unapproved, it was there. And I'll just quickly show you what it is and then explain how we did it and maybe what I would change. So within a given article, you get these little things at the side. You can link and you can highlight. Last time I checked, I said I don't work there anymore, so things sometimes change. But then within here, you can actually have these annotations. And again, if you look at the source of the document within here, it's creating a unique ID for every single paragraph, as well as list item and other things. But what they're doing that is different from the New York Times implementation is that this is heavily tied into the backend system. So we used WordPress, but we almost went off the upgrade track as a result. Essentially, we do generate the keys, and we do try to sync. And the difference, in engineering effort required for that was pretty high in comparison to the times where it was just me and one other person. And ultimately, so this took, I forget how long it took, actually. It took weeks. Yeah, it took, it was spread over months. Other projects come in that we have to kind of stop one and do the other. But it took a long time, whereas the New York Times could be measured in days. And it's still one of those things where annotations can get lost. You have to go into the back end, and you have to map the key to the correct paragraph. The other thing, too, is on a CMS level as well, you really don't want the writers worrying about matching keys up or them getting the emails that a comment or an annotation has been lost, which kind of did happen. So again, that was kind of like lessons learned. Like we thought we could nail the backend approach, and you definitely can. I would just say that the level of effort and the return, you need to balance that. So one of the reasons why I bring this up too is that there's a lot of other things that we could build on top of this. So linking to paragraphs is pretty simple and straightforward. Linking to content that is potentially mutable, that will actually change, and having a system that will be tolerant of that is extremely helpful. But also that can go the other way too. Typically, let's say within, if you're a WordPress user or a writer, they have shortcodes. So you have your shortcode and you have your YouTube URL. And we all know the intended behavior of that. That is to pull in and embed a YouTube video. What if we can do that with articles? Well, that's kind of straightforward. I could build a WordPress plugin. I provide a New Yorker article URL, and that would pull in the Open Graph information and just do a nice embed. Well, what about embedding parts of that article? Maybe there's something I want to reference, I want to cite. I want to have that piece that I'm quoting in the context of the before and after paragraphs. How do I build, building a service to do that is straightforward. The hard part is kind of figuring out how do you actually link it back to specific bits of content within the page without iframing the entire article and figuring out a way to injecting JavaScript so it jumps down to a specific point. There are things like that that we could probably do to build and extend, and something I'd like to definitely explore within the New Yorker, for example. But it seems to me that there's a lot of potential still there. The other thing too is in terms of services that you can build on within your page. The main examples I've shown, as I said, linking, highlighting, and annotation. I'm sure there's other things that people can come up with. There's a lot of people here at this conference. You're extremely bright. I know that there's some of those things, you hear ideas all the time, and then someone else will go and build upon that. And I'm kind of hoping that kind of happens today. We'll see. There is a repo on GitHub that we did at the Times. We called the project Emphasis, and it's simply like a drag and drop. I think the only dependency was jQuery, and even then, it's no longer required if you're only targeting modern browsers. It was more so that for the basically for the CSS selectors. But you should dig into it and fork it and play around with it and see if it works for you. The slides are available here. Thank you very much.